Hi guys, if current polling holds up, the Conservatives don't just see a wipeout at the next general election, but are also seeing some high-profile MPs and government ministers booted out too. Big names like Grant Shapps, Penny Mordaunt and even Jacob Rees-Mogg could be applying for universal credit next year. So what advice would a political maverick give to the Tories in order to save their party or at least win back support following a defeat? Well, GB News couldn't find a political maverick, so they invited on a UKIPer, and his advice was as pathetic as his party.
Neil, I'd love to come to you about this, the Tory big beasts facing wipeout at the next election after Tories opening up new splits, and there are already quite a few splits in the party, but it mentions cabinet members Penny Mordaunt, Grant Shapps and Mark Harper, who face losing their seat, and Labour being 15 points ahead, which is actually less than I thought they were ahead.
Well, we've been here before. I mean, I was a Member of Parliament back in the mid-1990s, and for nearly 5 years after Britain fell off the cliff of the ERM, the Tories were flatlining in the polls.
Yeah.
It was quite clear that 97 was going to be a wipeout.
Yeah.
And nothing that they could do under John Major as Prime Minister, who refused to accept responsibility for the greatest economic disaster that we've seen since the gold standard in 1931. He wouldn't resign. So the electorate then got their own back. And I think the Tories are in the same period of denialism now. And as Nadine Dorries said in her explosive resignation letter, why would you vote for a Tory party that isn't recognisably conservative and is doing all the things that the Labour Party would do? Actually, we're now seeing a reversal of roles. Today, the Labour Party is saying, no, we're not going to put up taxes on rich people. We're not going to have a wealth tax and so on. Meanwhile, the Tories have produced the highest tax burden since the Attlee government of the 1940s. So it's no wonder that the Tory big beast, and I think a lot of little beasts also will be wiped out. Some people I'll be very sorry to see lose, like Lee Anderson. So we need more people like him, and maybe then the Tories wouldn't be in this predicament.
In the doldrums there.
More people like Lee Anderson? Okay, so this is the advice coming from UKIP, the party allegedly too racist for Nigel Farage. Just think about that for a moment. A party that lost most of its seats, council seats, I'm talking about at the local election this year. They were reduced to one councillor. One councillor, and it's not that he won his seat, it's not that he was a new councillor, no, he was an incumbent. So they held on to one seat, they didn't win any seats. And they lost, I think, 20-something councillors. So you're getting political advice from a party allegedly too racist for Nigel Farage, and a party that faced a complete wipeout at the local elections this year. And his advice is you need more people like Lee Anderson. Well, Lee Anderson this year as well has been facing recalls from his constituents. This isn't just a case of, well, Lee Anderson is going to lose his seat. Like, if Lee Anderson held on to his seat, then you could make the case of, well, maybe the Conservatives need to be more like Lee Anderson. You need more people like Lee Anderson. But not only the case that Lee Anderson is likely to lose his seat, highly likely to lose his seat. Now, I say that because we don't know what's going to happen next week, never mind what's going to happen next year. But if we look at current polling, the Conservatives are going to lose a lot of seats, and some of the big names are going to lose their seats. But back to Lee Anderson, you know, a guy who is so unpopular in his constituency that some of his constituents have been organising against him. His constituents are pretty angry also because he's hardly ever there. He's on GB News. He's pretty much abandoned his constituency. And in order to cover his behind, he does these stupid videos where he's like, oh, I better go back to my constituency and pretend that I'm actually doing something. You know, the Conservatives are going to face a wipeout, not because of high taxes. It's down to cost of living. Now, Neil Hamilton probably doesn't suffer the cost of living, doesn't experience it, so he doesn't understand what ordinary people are going through, and he doesn't understand why ordinary people are angry with the Conservative Party. 13 years of cuts to public services. They see the NHS on its knees. The economy isn't doing very well. And the cost of living crisis, of course, is biting more and more. Inflation is down, but it still means prices are going up, just at a slower rate. But yes, best get advice from UKIP, the party allegedly too racist for Nigel Farage and who have lost most of their seats in this local election. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.